What's up, guys? So today on the podcast, we have Pete from Origin. He is one of the owners of the Origin. Originally, it was a gi company. Now it's like into like all kinds of stuff, more like a clothing and apparel and training gear company.
Lifestyle brand.
In
some ways.
Got gis, boots, jeans.
Yeah.
And he's still working on shorts. I was giving him crap about not having shorts, but he told me why. He's like, we just can't, we don't have the machinery to do the quality that we want. He said they're working on it, so I'm looking forward to that because everything they make is pretty good. But anyway, we had Pete on the podcast today because, again, I have, if some of you guys have been following me on Instagram or if you've been watching some of my YouTube videos recently, you've probably seen a couple of items that were made by Origin. And I'll talk more about that in the podcast a little bit, but I've been testing out some little prototypes. I'm a fan of them. And so coming up in towards the end of April, so right now, at the time of recording this, it's March 17th, 2021. And we'll be releasing it towards the end of April. I'll give you guys a specific date later on, but towards the end of April, we're going to be releasing the Chewjitsu Origin gi again. So it'll come out, and if you guys want to check that out, just keep your eyes on it. Make sure you're following me on Instagram and YouTube and stuff like that. We'll also tell you on the podcast as well. But that said, I think this podcast is really fun. Lots of cool stuff. If you're a business owner, for sure, you're going to learn something from this. If you're just kind of curious about some of the stuff, like if you're a jiu-jitsu practitioner and you're curious about some of the inner workings of gi companies and how that stuff works, again, it's kind of interesting. And for me, I like talking to people that do cool stuff and overcome sort of not so good odds and persevere through stuff. And that always kind of gets me motivated. So again, hopefully this does the same thing for you. So I hope you enjoy the podcast. Big thanks to our sponsors, guys. Big one, obviously, is Charlotte's Web. They were the first, and they're one of our they're like our OG sponsor. They've been here basically since the beginning with us after we worked out everything. And again, I'm a big fan of their products. I talk to people all the time in the gym now that are using them. A lot of you guys on Instagram are starting to send me messages because as the podcast is growing, more and more people are trying this stuff out. And again, I'm happy to say that most, I think all of, I haven't had a negative one yet, but all the feedback that I've gotten from has been positive. Like people are enjoying the products. And again, I'm a big fan of them. I say this because, again, I don't know if it's changed yet, but when we first brought on Charlotte's Web several years ago, part of the reason why we did was because I was using CBD oil. And I had found that like it was so hit or miss. There were some CBD oils that I would get nothing from, some of them that would work, and then some of them I would feel like I was damn near high, right? I was like, what is going on, you know? And again, because everything was unregulated, I don't know if it's still the case, because everything was unregulated, you know, you could put whatever you want to in there and you don't know what you're getting. And there were some actual studies that were done on the sort of quality of CBD, and they found that a lot of CBD oils did not have either what they said was in it or they had more than what they said was in it in the case of like sometimes THC and stuff like that. And so again, I'm a fan of their products and I feel comfortable offering them to people because they're third-party tested. They have all their stuff, you know, rigorously tested. And it's a quality product. And again, it's something that I've gotten a lot of benefit from. And so again, if you're interested in it, if you've listened to the podcast before and you're like, I'm kind of thinking about it, but I'm not sure, check them out. You can go to their website at charlottesweb.com. You can use the promo code Chewjitsu and save 15% on the order. And again, I encourage you, try get a thing of the gummies. I like the sleep gummies and the recovery gummies. Get a tincture, whatever it is that you want to try, and just try it out for a month and see what you feel. See what you feel after the month. And again, if you have questions about the THC content, because I know some of you guys get tested for different things, go through the literature on their website and they can explain it better than I can. And again, try it out and see what you feel from it. You know, again, don't take the word of your bearded podcast host / jiu-jitsu online coach, YouTuber, whatever. Try it out for yourself.
They just came out with a THC-free version. So there's one without THC. Now, I think, I'm not a specialist in this, but I think there is some benefit to having the CBD and THC together. It's like a synergistic effect, but you still will get some effect from just the CBD without any THC in it. Okay. Obviously, it's very, very low, the one that's in this, that is in the regular formula. But like they did come out with a THC-free one. It's available on their website as well.
And big thanks to our sponsor, Matt at Epic Roll, epicrollbjj.com. Again, if you guys have, I'm not wearing one today, I was wearing one last time. If you guys have not checked out some of his clothing and apparel, I'm a big fan of it. I like the designs that he puts on, the shirts. He's got like a lot of stuff in there too. It's not just like, again, I remember back in the day, there would be like some of these local companies back when the MMA fighting thing was kind of getting popular. All these guys started popping up with so-called like fight gear companies or apparel companies, and all they had was a t-shirt. Right, like, t-shirt. Like, how are you a fight gear company? You have no fight gear.
Yeah.
You know, how are you an apparel company? You have, I mean, yeah, you got a t-shirt. What else you got? And but Matt has everything from t-shirts and joggers and hoodies and everything else. And again, he creates all the designs himself, and he has a good creative flair. He has at least in my eyes, he has something that's it's all this stuff's very simple. It's clean. And again, I dig his designs. And so again, if you want to check out some of his stuff, you can go to epicrollbjj.com, use a promo code Jiu-Jitsu. And he's coming. Does he have those new shorts ready?
They're on the way.
They're on their way. So
I think you can already purchase them, but we've got some on the way. We're going to make sure we test them out on the mats.
Yeah, so basically, here's the issue. So good MMA shorts. It's just or jiu-jitsu, grappling shorts, whatever you want to call them. The problem with them, right? One of the issues with shorts like that is they have that Velcro.
Yeah.
And it's fine, but then it's not fine. Because it's fine until it's not, and then it doesn't, eventually it wears out. If you put it in the wash, sometimes it attaches to other stuff. Then over time it wears out, and to the point where then you literally can't, it won't zip up or it won't connect anymore. And so you've got shorts that otherwise are not ripped or anything else, but you can't wear them. Or you have to I remember I would use athletic tape to keep it together. I'd use a piece of athletic tape for each training session, just because the shorts were in such good shape, but the Velcro wore out. Yeah. So he's got these shorts now that don't have any Velcro.
Yeah.
They're more elastic style. And so I'm curious to see what those are going to be like. So I'm going to test them out and let you guys know how it goes. But if you want to check them out for yourself, you can also go again to his website at epicrollbjj.com. A new sponsor is Submission Nutrition. So we had this guy contact us. He's a jiu-jitsu guy, and he came up with a company. His big thing was that he, we were kind of asking him like, okay, what's the reason for this? What are you making this stuff for? Because just like you'll talk to Pete, there's a reason why people make things. Like where does it come from in you? And so he was like, well, I was at tournaments and I needed something to eat, and I wanted something that was light, but just weren't a lot of options there. So I started doing this stuff for myself, made the stuff, and so I was like, hey, maybe someone else wants this. So he sent us some bags, and I have now at this point tried every single flavor. So his deal is he makes these overnight oats. If you have overnight oats before, they're tasty. And he makes these bags of overnight oats. There's no added sugar, which is a good thing for me. Again, with my diet being kind of tight, I can't have I won't take in any added sugars typically, and I have to kind of make sure that my fat content's not too high as well, because sometimes you'll get like stuff where they throw in like lots of walnuts and stuff like that, which is fine, they're tasty, but I can't have too much fat because I'm eating way more carbs. But the pineapple coconut, man, like Jess and I were having this stuff the other day. I was like, this is good. Like it's naturally sweet from like the pieces of dried pineapple and coconut, but it's delicious. And so we had this the other day, and it was super tasty. So if you guys are interested in trying out some of his products, some of his overnight oats products that he has on his website, I would definitely encourage you to try the pineapple coconut. The pineapple flavor is not overly powerful. The coconut comes through, and it gives it a little bit of sweetness with the pineapple in there, and it's super tasty. So you can check that out. And again, you could use it in lieu of, say, breakfast. If you're not one of those breakfast people, I have a lot of my students, it drives me bananas. Scott, Big Scott, if you're listening right now, you came to the gym today, and he was talking about eating like a little cheese puff. Like these, I guess these quote like healthy cheese puffs. He's probably.
What does that mean?
It was like it was something. I was talking to the guys, and like he was talking about eating some sort of cheese puff thing, and then one of the other students was like, "Yeah, they're tasty." I'm like, "Well, yeah, tasty, but maybe not best for training." And so he sent me a picture of it. And I was like, man, you got to eat more carbs, And again, everybody, if you're eating a low carb diet, that's fine. But if you're not on a low carb diet, again, eating some light food, and I know some people are like, oh, I can't eat before training or whatever. If you start eating little bits of food, you'll adapt to it. Because I couldn't eat before training a long time ago either. But if you eat little bits of food, it's helpful. So I told him, I was like, man, take some oats and a little bit of fruit, and then a little bit in a protein shake.
Yeah.
And again, if something like this, if you're not a morning breakfast person, you could just like put this in the fridge, and then in the morning you wake up, you don't have to heat it up, you can literally just eat it out of it.
Right.
You can mix a protein shake, and then boom, off to training you go. And so if you want to check it out, you can go to submissionnutrition.com, and then the promo code is Chewjitsu, 15% off.
Mm-hmm. And then if you get, I think, over $25. It's free shipping. So,
Okay.
which is a great deal because shipping's not the cheapest. So that's good.
Cool. So check them out, guys, if you want to try out some of their products. And always, guys, if you want to support the podcast directly and you'd like to check out some of the cool stuff that we have in there, cool stuff that we got in there, check out our Patreon. There are a few new things that are going with the Patreon and with I've got a Vault membership. They kind of intertwine a little bit, but if you guys get into the Patreon, you'll have a couple options. One of the options is just there's a first tier. Get to try that. Second tier, you get all the content we've been producing for years. Literally, you can just dig into it for years. Every guest has had a little Patreon conversation with us. There's videos on how to warm up, full rolling videos, workout programs. I mean, just tons of stuff. And then on top of that, you'll get a chance to hang out with me on a Zoom call. So I do Zoom calls in there usually it's every 2 weeks. Sometimes it's more, sometimes it's less. It just depends on what's going on, but usually every 2 weeks. You get one every other week. And I jump on there and get to chat with people. It's fun. Like the other day, I was talking to some of the guys on the Zoom call, and one of them was kind of talking to me about like what it was like getting belts. Like what was it like every time I got promoted? What was those situations like? So I was basically explaining how I went through like each one of my belt promotions, like my green belt. Like I had one too, and the way I got that was really silly, like, so it was kind of funny. And so again, all that stuff's in there. You can, along with the Zoom calls, and also I'm testing out some new stuff. I got a camera. I've been wanting to play around and take some of you guys like kind of on the inside a little bit, show you kind of like what my day's like, some of the things that I'm up to. And so I'm testing out some vlogs that'll be available either in the Vault or in the upgraded tier package for the Patreon. And so if you want to get all the access to that stuff, you can go to patreon.com/the Jiu-Jitsu podcast and get it right there. Guys, and as always, if you would like to receive my daily email that I send out, you can go to jujitsu.net. And if you go there, there's a little thing that says free ebook. So you'll be able to get if you sign up there, you'll get 2 free ebooks, a video included. You'll get my daily email where I talk about all kinds of random stuff related to jiu-jitsu and whatever's going on in my head. Again, you can have those. And then if you don't like it, and you're like, I don't want this thing anymore, you can unsubscribe at any time and I will not message you. Scout's honor. But I was a Boy Scout. Were you a Boy Scout?
No.
Okay, I was. I was a Boy Scout. And so if you want to get that, just let you know.
Yeah,
I could tie some knots, bro.
Yeah,
not really.
My parents would just throw me out in the wild, just have me survive.
Meanwhile, in Russia,
you survive with the saber-tooth tiger.
Yeah, right.
You ride the saber-tooth tiger.
Did you guys have saber-tooths over there?
I don't know, maybe, probably. I never saw one.
So if you want to check out the emails, guys, go to jujitsu.net, check that out. And with that said, guys, let's jump into the podcast with Pete, and let's talk about his jiu-jitsu training, his start and that stuff, as well as the start of Origin. The idea of an American gi, I was American-Made gi. I was thinking about that like a buddy of mine back in, it was like 08, 09. We were trying, we thought, man, that would be such a great idea, right? So we're like, who can we get to make this thing, right? So we were like contacting people that would make jeans and stuff like that. They're like, no, we're not touching that thing because it'll destroy our equipment and we make more money doing this. And we got contacted by a guy these 2 guys that were here in Kentucky, and we got in touch with them, and they made martial arts uniforms, like karate uniforms and stuff. So we gave them a gi. They came up and looked at it, and they're filling around on it. They're like, okay, of course we can totally make this. Yeah. And so then a month or 2 goes by, and they send it. They don't even come back to the gym. They send it to us in a box, and we open this thing up, and it was this Frankenstein monstrosity of a gi that was like too light. It was awful. It was the worst thing. And to top it off, they didn't even give us our original gi back. Yeah. So kind of get into it, man. What made you want to start an American-Made gi company?
I mean, geez, where do I start? You want the short story or the long story?
Either one. Probably. I guess just ramble on as long as you like, man.
Oh, I can talk, dude. Well, I was, I think I started jiu-jitsu it was 2006, and I got right into it. Like, I was just like, holy shit, this is what's been missing from my life. And I was a Division I athlete and played three sports in high school. And
what'd you play?
I played lacrosse, football, and basketball.
Okay.
Yep. And football in college. And then I was a big tough guy, coming out of, college or whatever, 275 pounds and in really good athletic shape, and I was like, I'm gonna try this jiu-jitsu thing.
Mm.
Some 150-pound computer geek choked me out. Almost. And then I thought it was a fluke, and then he did it again, and I was hooked. Like I had never experienced, and I know this is probably like the story, you hear from many people, right? Like I was hooked. I was like, how is this possible? All my athleticism, strength training, physicality had zero impact on his ability to whoop my ass. So I got hooked big time. I went right into training and competing, and over the next few years, I did pretty good. And in 2000, in 2008, 9, like a few years after I was training, the recession hit, and I didn't do so hot. Let's just put it that way. I had a business, and had to close the doors and pivot and figure out what to do with my life.
What kind of business were you running at the time?
I was running a small marketing agency here in Maine,
Okay.
building brands for different companies. So kind of young entrepreneur, young family, big dreams, very naive, and I guess I pulled my naive ways into thinking I could start a gi company. I build brands, that's like what I've always done. And so I started Origin out of my basement in my house. And and it kind of had a little bit of success. We were like importing stuff. I had looked into the USA made thing in maybe 2009, 2010, and I was like, it's got to be possible. It's got to be possible. And everywhere I went, they said no. And then finally I was like, screw this. I'm going to find a way to do this. And so I started contacting the weaving mills because I knew the fabric was going to be the problem. Was like trying to find the fabric to make the kimono. I was like, we could figure out how to stitch the thing together. Again, super naive. Like I took home ec, I made a freaking locker pocket. That thing came out beautiful. Like I can sew a gi together. Should be no factor.
No problem.
Yeah. But so I went to these mills and they're like, yeah, we can weave this for you. Minimum orders 100,000 yards at $7 a yard or $10 a yard. I was like, oh shit.
Whoa.
Like I don't have 2 nickels to rub together or a bucket to piss in right now. Like there's no way I can do this. So so I kind of ran for a year, little over a year maybe, with importing these gis and and selling them and just doing what everybody else did. And it didn't, honestly, dude, like morally it just didn't feel good. Like I was straight up, I'm a piece of shit because I'm sending money over to Pakistan. Like I'm and I don't know where that money's going. I just know it's going to this city in Pakistan, and I'm getting back gis, and then I'm selling them for a markup. So I was doing some soul searching on really what I wanted to do with the next phase of life. And at the same time, I was competing heavily in jiu-jitsu. I was traveling around, and I had won the brown black belt division at the World Pro Trials, and I got sent over to Abu Dhabi, and and I was over there competing in 2012. And I remember somebody walking by me, and they had some Origin gear on. And I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. Like somebody in Abu Dhabi, they were from Poland, wearing Origin gear. And as they walked by, there was a different logo on the back. And I was just like, holy shit. And it was actually before my match with Shanji Hibero in the open division. And I just totally took me out of the moment. And all I could think about was how pissed off I was that our manufacturer took our designs, and we didn't have trademarks or patents, but it's still intellectual property that is shared between brand and manufacturer. And I felt burned, man. And it was a pivotal moment. It was a defining moment, and I knew at that point right there, sitting on that mat in the back room, waiting to go into the big show, that something was going to change. And on my flight back, I remember I was sitting next to next to JT Torres maybe. And I was just like, I don't think I'm competing anymore. Like I don't think that's my calling, is to compete in jiu-jitsu. And I'd done very good in competition. I said, I really got to think this through, what building this brand looks like, and the type of impact it's going to have, not just on me, but on our community. And that's not just the jiu-jitsu community, but my local community. But I went back, I got on Skype with our manufacturer, Ali, and I called him out. I said, dude, I said, this is absolute bullshit. I said, you taking the things that we're designing, and it wasn't just one thing. It was like it was this model of uniform. It was a bag, and then he ripped off this thing I developed. It was a grip training device called the Orangutan. I'd found out he ripped off all three things, and he was selling them into Europe after I dug a little bit. And he said, hey, you know what? Business is business. It is what it is. Deal with it. Bro, it was like the next day, I called up some friends and some family members, and we started cutting down trees in my backyard. Like, I live out in the woods of Maine. So like my backyard is just a forest, but we just started cutting down trees. I was just on like a singleness of purpose, like rampage. I went and found 2 old 1950s Singer sewing machines. I didn't even know how to work them. I was like, went and bought them for $500 cash and brought them in and put them in my basement. And I was like, we're gonna make stuff. We're gonna start with belts, and we're gonna start making stuff in America. The most like naive thing I could have done. But normally when I get on something, I get real committed. And I think that because of the passion I had for jiu-jitsu and that defining moment of feeling burned, also feeling that moral kind of compass get refocused, like I'm done sending my money to Pakistan. I got 2 young kids at home. I got to feed my family. I really got to find a way to make this work. And so that was the start of it. And we scraped as much as we could together, like just with free labor from friends. It's kind of like an old school barn raising. We had a bunch of Eastern white pine timbers sawn out. It's really cheap to saw out lumber. It was like a couple of grand, to saw out these lumbers. They were green, and lumber, when it's green, when it's wet, is really heavy. They were 10 by 10s. They're 27 feet long. And we stood them up, and we built a freaking factory in the woods. And
yeah. What was some of that? Like you said, you had a previous business and you're kind of naive. What were some of those things that you were naive about, and how'd you use those lessons learned to kind of promote and improve your business Origin?
Well, I think being naive is a superpower, and like that's where I would probably, this whole thing would end up, is being naive is a superpower if you truly have a singleness of purpose. If there's enough substance there to drive you forward. But I was naive to think that we could even sew something, like not even knowing the right type of thread to use, the right type of needles, that the fact that there's all these different stitch types. Some of them are stronger. There's lock stitch, there's chain stitch, there's overlock, there's all sorts of type of stitch types in machines. There's heavy duty, there's light duty, there's walking foot, there's needle feed, there's felling machines. It's crazy. Like I actually had to learn everything myself. I can fix almost every machine in the factory, but I was naive just the whole thing. And I remember this this old woman saying to me, I knew I needed a sewing machine, and I knew I needed an embroidery machine. And I found this old embroidery machine up in the North Woods of Maine. Some guy had it up there in his embroidery business, and he sold it to me for $5,000 cash. And I remember going up there, and there's a woman up there, and she was like, and she was probably 70. And she's like, you can't do this. What are you talking about? She's like, it's not possible. It is dead. You will never be able to do this. And I remember thinking, you have no fucking idea who you're talking to. Like, I had a massive chip on my shoulder,
Mm-hmm.
like watch. And I think I said to her, I said, and very nice way, I said, you know what? I said, you're living in the past, and you may be affected by what has happened and have that bitterness about the factories closing and people losing their jobs, you know. And I said, and I get that. I said, but this is possible. I said, and American manufacturing can live again, and I'm going to freaking prove it. Um, and then contrasting, I had an old timer, and they were friends, that was still working in a factory, and he said, this is totally possible. You can totally do this if you can learn yourself, if you can learn the knowledge. And he still works for me. I took him out of retirement. He still works for me. His name's Bill Kraft. If you can get the knowledge yourself, you know, then no one can pull the wool over your eyes, and you can make it happen. But you have to learn everything first. You got to know how to sew. You got to know how to fix the machines. You got to know how to create the processes. Got to understand pattern making. You know, like, you got to understand everything. So I just did a deep dive, and I actually tell people I lost probably 3 years, like literally lost 3 years. I don't know who won the world championships. Like, I don't know who won the pans. I don't know any. All I know is I was still training jujitsu and then building this factory. Like, I don't even know what happened for TV shows. There was new bands that came out I had no idea about, new singers. It was just, if my eyes would open up, I'd go down to that factory, figure it out. And when I got tired, you know, at midnight or 2 o'clock in the morning, I'd walk back, my eyes would shut, and I'd go to bed. I just do that day after day after day. And, you know, and things started to finally happen. The flywheel finally started to move.
That's a beautiful thing. Like you said, being naive is kind of, like you said, a superpower. And I relate with that, because some of the best decisions I've made were the decisions where I just jump into things. Because, you know, a lot of people will like try to plan everything, and they overthink every single detail. And in a lot of cases, they talk themselves out of doing something.
Yeah.
But then if you've got that fire under your butt and you just jump into it, and then you kind of get into it. And something else I think is interesting and is how you respond to the negative stuff, right? Because a lot of times negative things will fold people. So, you know, you had a guy ripping off your business, that might have discouraged someone from continuing going, and instead it lit a spark under you. And then you go up there and you're getting this machine, and, you know, you're around other people that are involved in the manufacturing side of these businesses. You think they would be supportive, but instead they're saying, no, you can't do this. And instead of saying, all right, well, you know, you're right, saying, no, I'm going to show you. Where do you think, is that something that you naturally had in you, or do you think that's something that maybe you developed over time? Because it's something I connect with as well.
Yeah, you know, I don't think that any specific location you grow up in is special, but for me, New England is special. You know, growing up in Massachusetts and Maine, it's I think it's a special place to grow up. You know, that work ethic is really ingrained. When you grow up, you don't really have, you have like one channel on television, so you're spending your time outside. You know, the only way to heat the house is with firewood, so you cut 6 cord by hand. You know, like that type of, I said, kind of work ethic. And the other thing is I grew up in a time in Maine where the factories went from being vibrant to dismay and were abandoned. And I watched that whole thing take place. And it's back when we used to get the newspapers in the mail. This mill has closed. Now this mill has closed. Now these 300 people out of work. Now these 700 people out of work. And so I watched that happen, and I wondered why, you know, but I didn't know why. You know, I mean, I didn't know why until I was in my late 30s, early 40s. You know what I mean? Like, so I knew it was possible to recreate that without knowing how, but being creative. And actually, I used jiu-jitsu on the business. I built Origin because I knew jiu-jitsu. Like, I literally took the concepts of jiu-jitsu and applied them to business. That's all I did.
How so?
Then I discovered there was this thing called lean manufacturing years later. And I was actually talking with my buddy Andy, who runs our footwear division. he used to set up plants for Toyota. He's a lean expert. And I said to him a couple of years ago, I said, Andy, I said, man, I said, you got to check out the guy that developed lean manufacturing, the guy from Japan. I said, I bet that guy trained jiu-jitsu. And he's like, I don't think so. I'm like, I'm telling you, it's the same thing. I said, lean manufacturing and jiu-jitsu, it's the same damn thing. And he went and found out the guy did. He trained judo and jiu-jitsu, and like he was totally into that. And he had applied some of that knowledge to lean manufacturing. And it's just like a lot of similar concepts with, you know, just efficiencies and movement, you know, and balance, just all the good stuff about jiu-jitsu that makes it, you know, awesome. We applied to the business. So
what is, if people don't know, what is lean manufacturing? Like what exactly, how would you describe that?
I would call lean manufacturing. Well, let me explain it to you like this. If I put 5 pieces of paper in front of you, okay, 8.5 by 11 sheets of paper, how would you go about making 5 paper airplanes? I'd like to hear both your answers.
So if we've got a stack of paper right here.
Yep, you got 5 pieces of paper, or you can have them in a stack, or you can have them side by side. But you need to make 5 paper airplanes. How would you approach the process?
It would depend on if I knew how to make if I was doing any trial and error type stuff versus.
Let's say, a simple one we used to make in like grade school or whatever. We just, fold it 3 times on one side, fold it 3 times.
I mean, I guess you could stack them, put them all together, and just stack them all.
I mean, I'm trying to think about it now because I'm being asked. But I mean, I would just fold them, make one until there was 5, right? But
okay. Why would you do that?
Because I don't know. It just seems like it'd be simple to make one, and then I have that one that's done, and I can set that one to the side, then make another one until it's done, and then set it to the side, and I can just focus on that, putting that all together each time.
Okay, how about you?
I mean, because you're asking me now, if I think of how would I be most efficient with my time and my effort, is I would stack the papers on top, and I would just do them all together as one. Now, again, I think the quality may not be as good there because you may have
the quality goes down.
Yeah, some of the papers may not be in line, and
So if the first one works and the rest of the 4 are seconds, then that wouldn't be super efficient, right? Because quality goes down. So what would be your second pivot on making them?
My second, I'll just make each one by one, like Chewy said. Yeah,
that's the right answer. Make one at a time, because if you fold one in half and then you go to the next one and you fold one in half, then you go to the next one and fold in half, then you come back to the beginning and you do your second fold. That's called it's called batching. And actually Andy does this. He does this exercise with my different teams. We have like between 110 and 120 employees, and we do these exercises. There's muda, there's loss in the motion of going from one to the other one. So when you start something, you pick it up, you should just finish it, put it down, it's complete, and then you should go to the next one, right? Whereas you would think in manufacturing that it makes sense to everybody do like one piece of the process, right? So let's get this person really good at stitching this line, and then let's pass it to the next person, and let's get them really good at stitching this line, right? Except that there's a bunch of waste in between all of the passing of the product. Right. So what we want to do is we want to train that person to be versatile in multiple tasks, so that they can do a bunch of different things, right? Maybe even make the whole product, but they can do a bunch of different things before it gets passed. So you create efficiencies and you cut down on the time. So it's very similar to jiu-jitsu in that respect, where you're escaping mount, right? I like to go like for an elbow escape. If they try to slide into a technical mount, I'm not going to let them because I got a good frame. But let's say they start to lift that leg. I feel a little bit of leverage. Boom! I pop between my legs. I go right to deep half guard. I skip all the in between. I don't shrimp out, get the underhook, push the far leg, get in, bring this one out and go back into guard. I go from mount to half to deep, quick. So from the worst position to an offensive position. So like those type of efficiencies, and everybody has their own style of jiu-jitsu, right? You connect the dots yourself.
Yeah.
Well, manufacturing is the same thing. If you're making a new product, you're gonna design in an efficient manner a way to produce that thing to cut down on cost to make it affordable for the consumer. So
Cool. So, man, you get this sort of idea in your head. You start getting at least a little traction. You're getting all these things. Tell me about like the whole process and like when you had your very first like good gi, like a gi where you're like, I am pumped about this. I'm sure that was a big deal to you. Like when you finally had one done, how did that whole thing happen and what was that like?
so the first like really good gi.
Like, I mean, because obviously you probably had to
Yeah.
get like some equipment that you didn't have, and
Oh,
then
yeah.
like you had to buy like one of those big looms or whatever, right?
Yeah, so we had that was the probably one of the hardest things we've done is that was the last piece of machinery we needed. And it was in Maine. There was one loom like left in Lewiston, Maine. Um, the rest of them had been exported to China 25 years earlier. They came in, they scooped everything up, and this nice old woman, Rachel DeGrosier, she kept this one loom. Her dad had worked in the mill. She wanted to make a museum, and I went in and said, "Can I buy this frame, this loom frame?" And she sold it to me. And she's like, "Yeah." I was like, "I'm actually going to weave fabric on this." That was super naive to think I could do that, but um,
Well,
again,
you were, but you figured it out, right? You started
well,
doing.
yeah, I literally called all around New England looking to, there's a few weaving companies left, like a handful, looking for help, and everybody shut me down. And finally I talked to this company, and I got a guy who worked on the looms, and he's like, "Yeah, I can't help you or whatever." And I don't know how I convinced him to come and help us, but I was like a dog with a bone. I think I was like, "Well, can I come there? Can I meet you?" But I was not, I was going to meet this guy. I was going to meet this guy one way or another and get him involved. Like it was happening, like it was like, it wasn't his choice. You know what I mean? Like everything. Can I come hang out with you? Can I meet you? Can I pay you? Can I, whatever you need. So, I found this old timer, Lenny. He just passed a couple of months ago, actually. I found this old timer, Lenny, who showed us the old ways, man. Showed us how to weave fabric. So, so once that loom was running, the first thing we did was we ran like a pearl weave. We called it American Smart Pearl Weave. Bro, it was a huge challenge trying to weave this fabric. We were weaving 100% cotton. It was sized, which means it has starch on it. I didn't know what sizing was or starch was. We had these two massive beams feeding into the loom to try to recreate the weave. It was before I was inventing our own weaves,
Yeah,
because I was just trying to recreate what I knew.
sure.
So there wasn't any fiber blends. There wasn't any like wicking properties. There was none of that shit. Um, and I would say that our first skis weren't our best. They were nostalgic, but they weren't our best. They were as good as anything you would import, though. So as a baseline, what could be imported as compared to what we were making, they were as good. The jackets, the pants were better because we basically took a jean style pant and said, "Hey, why do we want to provide a trash bag? Like why would you have a gi pant that you cinch a trash bag closed around your waist? Why wouldn't it be more form fitted? Why wouldn't there be a yoke in the back to curve around your butt?" So we had created a better gi pant. But I would say like our real true success came when we actually developed our own weave with our own fiber blends and thought about how to twist the yarn together and the blends of the fibers to create the fabrics. And we came up with like a dragon weave is what we call it, dragon weave textile, which is a real awesome textile. And I think that was 2013, about 2013. And we continue to use that textile. But they all serve their purpose. I love all the different products we've made, all the gis we've made. But the first dragon weave gi was like the axiom, we called it, was the one. That was the first one.
What made that one so? What makes that weave better, or unique, kind of to that gi? Like, I mean, I understand maybe the patterning's a little different, but like, what as far as like, is it more durable? Does it have a certain amount of give to it? Like, what made that gi really that weave really good?
Yeah, that gi was special. We blended cotton and a polysynth. It was like a polyester fiber, and then we coated it in like a silver treatment, so it was like antimicrobial.
Mm.
And the way that we finished the fabric after we wove it, we had a science between how we like stretched the fabric. We didn't want it when it got wet. We didn't want to stretch more. We wanted it to be like fully stretched, but not too rigid. We wanted it to be, tough to grab, but soft on the skin. And so we just went through these processes of really, really kind of like, what any athletic company would want to do, making a product, right? For athletics, except we wanted to make an athletic product for jiu-jitsu. So we wanted all those modern features, but for jiu-jitsu. And honestly, nobody would have ever done it. Like, nobody would have done that. Like, somebody who had flown over to Pakistan for 18 to 24 months to figure all this shit out and try to connect the dots. So, we were just blessed to be able to make that all happen here locally within, I would say New York up to New England, and in the region in the Northeast.
Yeah, when I didn't realize the difference, like, because I've been training since 2003, and I've owned everything from the gold weaves to the sort of mixture that was a platinum weave. My buddy that worked for Gameness years ago told me they basically sent a gold weave to Pakistan. They sent back this weird kind of fabric, and there's like, what do we call this thing? We'll call it platinum weave, but it wasn't a regular single or a platinum weave.
Right.
I've had like competition doubles. I've had everything, right? And I remember I met up with one of your reps when I was in Ohio, and she was like, here, she gave me one of the gis to wear, and I remember like trying it on. I was like, this is a different fit of it. This is a different gi. Like, it's not like, hey, we slapped on some crap on it, it's a new gi. No, like, because they're, basically every gym owner, if you guys are gym owners, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You get messages every day from people in Pakistan. Hey, friend, I can make all your stuff. And it's like, they'll send you the stuff that they're making for everyone else, and they'll just slap your logos on it.
Oh yeah.
But when I remember putting the gi on, and I remember this is a different gi. The weave was different. There was even, it was still had a good strong grip on it and everything else, but it had a sort of airiness to it, the athleta.
Yeah.
And then I remember the pants. The pants, like the pants were so good that I hurt myself. Like, they're so mobile, because one of the things is being a wrestler, when you put on a pair of like you said, a pair of regular gi pants, they start getting soggy, and you just can't move around as well.
Yeah.
I put those pants on, and I was shooting so much I was shooting every day for a week, because I could move so well with my legs that I ended up getting patella tendonitis. Right. Which again went away, but it's definitely, it's a different animal, man.
Yeah, totally.
I was really impressed with it.
Yeah, no, appreciate that. There's a lot of work, and we've continually made improvements. So that one, the Atleta, was American Smart Pearl. So it's kind of like it looks like a traditional pearl weave, but it doesn't feel or react like it, and it almost like dries as you sweat.
Yeah.
So it's wicking the moisture off your body, both the pants and the jacket. And that's a super awesome product. Then we developed the Rift in 2019, which, is a super challenging product to make, because it's 7 pieces, I think, but it totally maps to your body. So yeah, it was an adventure, but we definitely broke the mold a few times, and hopefully a few times more. I haven't thought of anything new to do in the past since coronavirus, I would say, but you can always advance the product. So we've had a bunch of people rip us off, obviously, over the years. At this point, we've been making gis for 8 or 9 years, and we had a bunch of people rip us off. But we're always a step ahead. So,
How did they rip you off? Like, were they just like a similar product, or like?
Yeah, they'd kind of copy, let's say, the cuts, like the cuts of the pants or the cuts of the jackets normally, the lines, the cuts, things like that. Things you could probably get a design patent on, but is it really worth it? Jiu-jitsu, however much I love it, is, it's not a spectator sport yet. You know, I mean, it's turning into one, which is awesome to see. You know, all these different rule sets make it really exciting. But it's not like globally accepted, like, you know, even like basketball or baseball or lacrosse, or like, it's just not there yet. So innovation usually happens more around spectator sports because there's just more money in the funnel to do those things. But yeah, it's been a fun journey recreating the kimono that hadn't changed in freaking 200 years until 2012 when we decided to change it. You know what I mean? It's like crazy.
Was there any particular part of the process? So you're creating this gi, this new thing. You're trying to take something that you've already had around and you're trying to make it new. Was there any part of that process to making something brand new, essentially, from it that was particularly challenging?
You know, all of it. I had gotten like mixed feedback. I remember I was running, I had Tanquinho up here, I think in 2012, Tanquinho and Formiga, and then a few other Brazilian guys. And I knew that they would give me honest feedback on what we were trying to do. And I remember some of them thinking, this is really awesome. And some of them thinking this is never going to work. And I remember saying, well, it's not going to work for who? They're like, well, people aren't going to accept it. I said, well, black belts might not. I said, but there's a lot more white belts than there are black belts.
Except what?
Except the changes I wanted to make. Like we changed the pants, we changed the belt system, we changed it to a locking system so you don't have to retie your belt ever. You know, you got the swivel lock. I remember them like just some of them being like, this is awesome and innovative, and some of them being like, this is never going to work. And having to kind of explain to them like, no, it's going to take a couple of years, but we're going to re-educate everybody. Like we're going to go on an educational campaign and educate, and then we're going to get the white belts and the blue belts and probably some purple belts. Of course, every brown and black belt thinks they should be sponsored, right? So we're going to kind of start with that.
I want to ask about that, by the way.
We're going to start with like we're going to start at the bottom, and then we're going to build our customers. We're going to bring them into our journey of bringing back manufacturing. We're going to share with them our ebbs and flows, you know, trials and tribulations, and they're going to be part of this thing, and they're going to help us through it, and as a community. So and it worked, and that's what we did. That's what we executed. So it worked.
What's your inspiration like for having these new ideas, these new designs, these new fits? Just how does this come about? How do these ideas come about? And then how do you kind of turn those ideas into the process of executing, bringing this gi or this idea to, you know, to something people can get?
Yeah, sure. I mean, so it's funny. I'll tell you a quick little story. I'm a designer, so I went to art school and new media and whatever. So that's my background is I'm actually a designer. I remember sitting in Abu Dhabi in 2012, and I was sitting with another gentleman who owns another brand that's well known. And I was sitting there with Megaton, and he was my roomie for 10 days. So we got to
Megaton was?
That's pretty cool.
I bet that was wild.
Oh, Barry, it was wild.
That dude.
Was he getting drunk like every night, taking shots?
Dude, yeah. What happened? Anyway, so I was sitting there with Megaton and Shanji and this other person, and we were talking about gis. And I remember this other person being like, a gi's a gi. You can't do anything to it. You can't be innovative. It's a gi. You know, he's like, you make pants, you make a jacket. And I remember saying like, I just like, dude, you have no idea, because this guy didn't train jiu-jitsu, but he owned a brand in jiu-jitsu. And I remember talking him through my ideas for changing the gi. I remember walking him through, like actually telling him my ideas. Like we're gonna take the pants and we're gonna cut the knee pads like this, and that way when someone squats down, you know, it's going to pull from the hip, so the leg will slide a little bit better. You know, it won't kind of create friction across your leg, but slide up your leg. It'll give you more mobility. If you're trying to shrimp out on the bottom, you're going to have more mobility. And I remember explaining this whole thing to him, and And I remember Megaton and Shanji being really engaged in the conversation, and him kind of being like, holy shit, there's a whole nother level to this. A few months later, this guy called me on the phone, and we had launched this ski called it was called the Pro Comp. And I remember him calling me saying, hey, just to let you know, I trademarked Pro Comp. And I said, oh, cool, man. Yeah, we're on to other things, you know, like just like Chase, buddy. As long as you're looking at me, you know, like that's a good thing.
So he trademarked it after you came out with the gi?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. This guy was a complete doucher, man. He was just a tool. So I always use those instances as just motivation. And honestly, it was it's just let me know that we're on the right path, that we're doing things differently, that we're changing the game. So I don't even know if I answered your question, but I got off onto a tangent there.
Yeah, it's kind of just like your inspiration. I think that, you know, I think part of it is having people constantly on your tail,
Always
kind of chasing you, you know, that can be inspiring. And
yeah, a lot of doubters, and honestly, like I was always inspired by like other brands. Like I was a huge Burton fan growing up, you know, just a fan of that brand, and they were building snowboards in Vermont, you know, and they created a huge business, you know, with local labor and like just tremendous branding and awesome designs and incredible innovation. So I always liked you know, brands like that, and I just always thought it could be applied to jiu-jitsu, you know, and that nobody had done it. So why not?
Now, have you had a situation, and I asked this because again, I'm one of those people similar to you that like when someone says I can't do something or it's not going to work or some sort of negative thing, like I get so fueled by that. Like I get so excited. I'm like, I'm gonna show you. Like, because
Yeah.
like it's so much better. Like if someone says, yeah, man, you're gonna do so great. I'm like, don't tell me that. Tell me it's gonna not work, because I love that feeling of having someone to fight against, right? So that like when I'm tired and I know I need to do the work, I'll just sort of think about the person, say it's not gonna work, whatever. And then I'm like, all right, I need to get back to work, whatever. But have you had a situation, because obviously you're doing pretty well and you guys have gotten into all kinds of other projects and different products. Have you had a situation where maybe like one of the people that was kind of doubtful and they've kind of come around and said, hey man, listen, whatever, or you've been able to, I guess, you know, and I hate to say this way, because I know that there's like this motivational guru bullshit world that says you're supposed to always have positive thoughts and stuff, but damn it, dude, it feels good when you can, like when someone that was like talking trash to you, hating on you, whatever, and you get to come back around and go, yeah, see, I did that. Like you said I couldn't do it, but I did it. Have you had that feeling at some point, or that situation at some point?
Oh yeah, you know, for sure. I mean, many instances I don't say anything, but
Of course,
you know, you get that feeling like,
it's
yeah,
an internal thing.
yeah, it was always going to happen.
Yeah.
You know, like, oh, I'm glad you finally arrived. You know, I mean, I'm glad you finally see the truth. Yeah, I've had that validation, you know, has happened. I don't put a lot of weight on it, you know. I think as we had some of our first successes, I put like more weight on it. Like, see, like we could do it. Like when we got an article in Jiu-Jitsu magazine, you know,
Yeah.
it's like, see this, now the world knows that it can be done. I think the biggest validation at first was, you know, and I never saw the woman again, but like, no, we are doing it. We're making this shit in America. We're cutting and so we're weaving and cutting and sewing and making it truly on a 100% American supply chain. So it was a proud moment for sure.
Well, there's probably a lot of validation too, because obviously, you know, as a business owner, when you bring something to market, if it goes well and people really enjoy the product and they talk about it and they rave about it, like if you talk to like when I've had those, I got those prototypes done from you guys, like the little ones that we're going to put together, and I've been wearing them in videos and pictures and stuff like that. And like every person that's ever owned an Origin gi has been like, dude, when is it? When is it? When is it? When's it coming out? Take my money now, right? Because they've experienced the difference of it. And they're like, man, this is a great gi. Like, and it's a different sort of thing. So I guess being a business owner too, probably the biggest validation is people love your stuff.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We don't. I can probably count the number of like returns we've had from like a fabric tearing, on two hands in the past like 8 years. You know, people who play from their knees like two times a day, you know, 7 days a week, they're gonna break through the fabric. You know, you get the what do I call it? Like two walruses fighting from their knees. You know what I mean? But like the durability of the product is, and like the way people talk about it, like people who wear Origin, they just know, you know, like that's their go-to gi. You know what I mean? Like that's the one they perform in. That's the one that's gonna last them a very, very long time. And that's the one they know they can pick up the phone and call some folks up in Maine to help them out if they get into a pinch, you know. So it's been awesome. I mean, I don't know how big of a brand we are compared to other brands, but I know that we've created a blue ocean, you know, and almost like a different market. It's like I don't see, we don't have any competitors. There's everybody else doing the same thing, and then there's us doing something differently. That's how I look at it. So it's either you're buying one of everything else because it's all the same. It all comes from the same place, you know, Pakistan or China, maybe a little bit in Brazil, but I don't think even that much anymore. I think most of it's Pakistan and China, or there's Origin in the United States of America. You know, there's two choices. So I don't think we're for everybody, because not everybody gets fired up by quality, handmade, heirloom level, phenomenally built, innovative, performance-based products, you know, even if they covet that, you know, they, so we've got haters too, I think. But yeah, I'm happy with the way things are going. Like, fires me up, dude. I drink most of the Kool-Aid. and I mix the Kool-Aid.
Yeah. You're drinking your own Kool-Aid.
Yeah, exactly.
When did everything take off? Like when was there a turning point where you're like, oh shit, this is gonna turn into something big? Because I mean, you got to think, you had a struggling business initially, then you're starting to learn all these things. You're trying to balance probably making a living with spending all this time learning and actually creating things by hand. Like, when did you kind of see it start to turn around and start to take off?
You know what's funny is we started manufacturing, what was it, 2012, 13. And in 2015, a friend of mine, Mike Swain, he's a judo guy. You guys know Mike?
Yeah, I know of him. Yeah.
Okay, Mike flew up here. He was working for, he had sold his business to Dalmar, Swain Mats to Dalmar, so he was repping Dalmar. He flew up here, and he was sent by the owners to try and buy us out. And I remember like thinking, this could be awesome, because I got nothing right now. You know what I mean? I got this timber frame factory with a bunch of old machinery trying to make freaking jiu-jitsu gis. And I remember just thinking like, definitely not interested, Mike. He's like, well, that's awesome, you know, that you're not, because I think what you got here is special.
Nice.
You know? And so it was at that point where I felt like we had made enough relevant noise, people had to pay attention. And I knew at that point that it was a matter of time. And I remember telling I have two business partners, a guy named Andre Almeida, Dedeco is his nickname, and Jocko Willink. And I remember at the time it was just Dedeco and I before Jocko came in. And I remember telling Dedeco, like, hey man, you know, like we just need like one person, you know, like just the right person to help us dump gasoline on this thing. And we were talking about it for like maybe 12 or 18 months at that point. And then Jocko had reached out, and, you know, and I think when he came in is really when we skyrocketed. I mean, when he came in, we were like 10 or 12 employees, maybe 10. We're just moving into our new factory, which was like a huge investment. It was 20,000 square feet. So we're moving out of like a 6,000 square foot thing we had built into this downtown building. We bought it for $500,000, had to take a big loan out, had to, like there was all these things we're doing on just jiu-jitsu gis. and
Mhm.
and rash guards, right? So like jujitsu gis and rash guards. So I definitely bit off more than I could chew. And when Jocko came on board, he's like, bro, he's like, I can tell the world, you know, because he was a fan from early on. He was following us from early on, like way back when we just like started building the factory. And he's like, he's like, if you can, basically, if you can build it, I can tell the world. And man, we went to Portland, Maine. We had a steak and a handshake. We shook hands, and shit, we didn't even sign papers for like 3 years. We just ran, just like
Nice.
old school, you know, look each other in the eyes, shake their hands, and commit and go. So it was pretty phenomenal. But I mean, if you think about when Jocko came on board in 2017, so just about 4 years ago, we've gone from 12 employees to, you know, over 110 employees. There's
Wow.
rapid growth, 4 locations, 2 factories, 2 warehouse, 120,000 square feet of space, millions of dollars in machinery and equipment, launching new lines, our lifestyle apparel, you know, and all that good stuff. So yeah, there was moments of, I felt like we had made it when we started up the loom for the first time. I was like, we made it. We can weave our own fabric, you know, like when Mike showed up. I mean, lots of different instances, but those ones really stand out.
Mm.
That's cool, man. Yeah, you guys built this quality product, and then eventually, like you said, you poured gasoline on it by getting out to more people. And then once that was done, it was there. You know what I mean? That's such a cool story. I'm curious about the camps because I haven't been to one, but I plan to go whenever they have another one, or whenever you guys have another one. How did the Origin camp thing start? Because I've had a few of my students go; they had a blast. How did that whole sort of thing come about?
Yeah, the camp started in 2012. Actually, it was the first one we had. Um, I was just thinking it would be cool to do like an immersive experience where we could bring people in to train, but we could also bring them to the factory
Hmm.
and like help proliferate the message. Like they'll take back what, not just what they've learned for jiu-jitsu, but what they've learned about Origin, and like tell all their peers, because it's just so impactful. When you walk in, it's like it's, you know, it has an impact on your soul. You know what I mean? Like you can feel it, you know, and you can't really capture that in a 2D way through your phone or a computer screen. But I said, if people can bring people here and they can feel it, then they're going to not only going to be lifetime customers, they're going to tell everybody. So um, at the first year was like literally people from my team here in New England. The Deco, you know, the Deco school is like 20 people, 27 people. You know, we lost our shirts. You know, this the second year, we lost money. You know, but we still did it. The third year, I think we broke even. But the word started to get out, and I knew we had a good thing. I knew there was a story around Maine as a destination location, and Origin and what we're doing. I knew that it could be the tip of the spear for something special. I believed it. I believed it, you know, and I think that's key, right? Not to get too cliche, but like that belief in yourself that like if you truly have a singleness of purpose, and you're willing to go all in on something and remortgage your house, you know, and really do it, like, man, you like, and you believe like it's possible. So I just kind of maintained that naivete, you know, and that mindset going into this camp thing, and knowing that we're going to come out on the other end of this thing and it's going to be successful. I'll tell you what, it's camp is actually the biggest product we sell.
Hmm.
Like we have 600 people come to this thing over the course of a week. Is two 300-person sessions. We feed them all you can eat lobster. We have people from all over the world that come in. They're not just from the U.S. So they come in. We feed them, wine and dine them. We have, you know, do s'mores over campfires, and you know, I have so many people that are always contacting me, black belts, high level black belts. I want to come to the camp. I want to come teach at the camp. So it's actually created quite a demand, you know, like people just wanting to come. So it kind of got started like that, and it's worked. Like the plan has worked. Now you've got, you know, you started with 27 people, 50 people, 150 people, 300 people, 400 people, and they go back and they probably they say good things about the camp, I'm imagining, right?
Mhm. Oh yeah, I mean they like the guys that my students that came there or went to it, they had an absolute blast,
Yeah.
and it was cool because I think one of those things where especially when you because I've done different both jujitsu and other types of stuff camps, and whenever you go into a place that's not your usual setting, and then you're going around people sharing this thing that you have a passion about or whatever it might be, and you're meeting all these different people. And again, you guys are putting together a very unique experience along with that. It really creates some interesting memories, And so these guys were coming back, and they were just, they were almost had this like little inner thing that they could talk
Yeah.
about. They were so stoked about. So,
Experience something together.
yeah,
And
dude, it's something.
I say it's like being at camp when you're a kid, like being at summer camp, like but you have more freedom because you're an adult. You can do whatever the hell you want.
Yeah.
So you're not tied to a schedule. We'll be up till 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. There'll be people training on the mats outside under the pavilion, under the lights till 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. They're training, the steam's coming off of them because, it's crazy, man. It's just fun. And we have the full campus is our campus for that 1 week. So
Yeah, and Maine's beautiful. It's a beautiful place.
yeah.
Like it's such beautiful. I've been up there maybe about 5 times.
Oh, nice. What parts?
I've been up to like Portland, Bar Harbor, Wiscasset. Been there's another one, but like I went up there and obviously, seeing friends and stuff like that, and we went like sailing and everything else, and
Oh, nice.
just such a beautiful place, man. We went up there both in the springtime and like in the sort of the summer, and I've actually been in their winter and even like in the fall, like the leaves are changing, everything up in New England. That's it's beautiful up there.
Yeah, all the leaf peepers come up. They come up on buses and look at all the foliage.
It's yeah, it's like a totally different. I've never been, but it just seems like such a beautiful place, and probably a lot of hunting. You guys hunt a ton, I'm sure, out there. And
yeah, I don't hunt as much anymore, but my son does.
Yeah, it's cool. I wanted to touch base or kind of ask you, like, you spent so much of your energy and your time building this business, and you meet Jocko, right? And you don't even like, you just do a handshake, like to share this thing. Can you tell me a little bit more about like that relationship and kind of what you saw in him that was like that allowed you to trust him in that way to be a part of your business?
Well, I will share with you that story. I'm not sure if I've ever shared it this way before, but when we first connected, we got on a Zoom call, and the first time we ever talked, we were on a Zoom call for 4 hours.
Wow.
And he got off the Zoom call. He was at home. I was in my office, and his wife said to him, she said, "Jocko, it sounded like you were talking to yourself." And so we kind of had this immediate kind of connection. He's a New England boy. He spent half his time in Maine and half his time in Connecticut growing up. His dad taught in Maine during the summers, and I think taught in Connecticut the rest of the year. So just a New England boy, grew up in a similar fashion. So we kind of had that immediate connection. And then when I said to Jocko, I was like, we had this small nutritional thing we were trying to do through Origin, selling some supplements and whatnot. And I remember Jocko had like a big contract with another brand at the time, and they were paying him a lot of money to sponsor his podcast. It was on it actually.
Okay. And
I remember saying to Jocko, like, listen, if we're in, like, we're all in, like we're gonna have all the skin in the game, not just a piece of it. And it's like, how do you feel about that? And he, after walking around Portland, Maine for 2 hours, going back and forth, I asked him to abandon a major income stream. And when we shook hands, he had abandoned that income stream.
Mm.
And I knew right there that I was working with somebody who is, and I hate to say, like, was going to work with me at the level I needed to be met, I guess is the right way of saying it.
Mm-hmm.
Like we were on Montana a couple of weeks ago, and he's like, yeah, well, my wife Helen said, if there's anybody that works as hard as you, Jocko, it's probably Pete. So it's just like I get up in the morning at 5:30 in the morning, and be like, hey, what do you think about this idea? Or what do and he'll be right there and we'll be firing ideas, like we don't need coffee, we don't need anything. It's just like boom, 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 or at midnight, the same way. So he's always on. And I needed somebody that could meet me at that level, that ADHD kind of level. Like you wake up and your mind's on fire and your ass is on fire and you're ready to go. And honestly, that drives a lot of people nuts.
Mm-hmm.
Like a lot of people they can't deal with that, with being on with that. And not saying intensity, but just I guess it's like sheer force of will to want to do something, and get shit done. Like I don't need time to warm up in the morning. I don't need to, drink coffee and, do all that shit. Like I'm up and I'm on, and he is too. So there was a few key things that really made it work. And I remember I'm just saying, bro, if we do this, it's gonna be like the perfect storm. So that's kind of like the inside thing. We call it the perfect storm. So we're working on a few things that right now that are pretty massive. And I would say within the next 5 years, Origin will probably be a household name. Probably 1 out of 10 households in the US will know who we are. So we're working on some fun stuff. We've got some good things in the works to really become America's next big brand. So it's been a lot of fun.
That's awesome. I just kind of wanted to ask, like you mentioned, sometimes 5 a.m, midnight, you're always working. What's a typical day? We can kind of end on this, what's a typical day for you? Like when you wake up, like what's your process? Maybe your creative process. Are you doing something like you're training sometime throughout the day, or what do you do? Like what's a typical day for you to kind of get the most out of your day and also be like the most productive?
Yeah. So for me, I'm an unstructured ADHD entrepreneur. So I was defined recently by somebody else who runs a $4 billion fund as a true entrepreneur. He's like, you're a true entrepreneur. I was like, what do you mean by that? He's like, you get up and you like to make shit and build shit from scratch and do these things that would scare most people away. I said, okay, well, what's the difference? And he's like, well, like basically like corporate business or business people, they come in after an entrepreneur has gone through the trenches and they kind of like fix everything up. Let's just say, I get the right human resources in place, get your finance team and your marketing and sales team and, your human resources and logistics and all the other stuff you need, which we've been doing, which we have. But, so I have that mindset, that entrepreneurial mindset. But I also know I don't want to have any entrepreneurial seizures. Like that's the last thing I want to have is an entrepreneurial seizure. So I have a million ideas and I might execute on 1 or 2 of them. And I might execute on 1 of 2 of them when the timing is right. So I got to keep myself in check a lot. But my typical day is I never wake up to an alarm. And my eyes usually open up between 5 and 6:15, I'd say, somewhere in that range. Sometimes I beat my wife out of the house. Sometimes she beats me out of the house. And I'd say I probably am asleep well before 10. So between, let's say 9 and 10, I'm asleep. And my typical day is building culture in the company and between all the locations, solving problems, talking with people, everybody's always trying to pull you for a little bit of attention. And I try to give everybody the attention they need if I'm there in the moment. I don't do a great job of it sometimes, but I'm still a work in progress. And then during the day, I try to get some type of a workout in at least 4 or 5 days a week. like tonight's jiu-jitsu. Monday was jiu-jitsu. I do weightlifting once or twice a week, depending, sometimes circuit training. I found a new love for the Peloton. So I've been doing a lot of Peloton. So I've been trying to do that a few times a week, but I don't like usually, I basically fit it in my schedule, when I can. And it's usually between 11 a.m. and 1 p.m. I'll try to get a little bit of time to get a workout in. And then if we've got something big going on, I'll take 2 weeks off. I'll sacrifice 2 weeks like that, like quick. Like if I got some shit to take care of, like I'm not doing anything for 2 weeks except for that one thing. So I do sacrifice my health sometimes for that. It works for me. It's not for everybody. I'm very unstructured. I think that's also what makes Jocko and I work. He's very structured. He's rigid, and I'm very unstructured. But I can do a lot of things at the same time, and I think that's probably a superpower, kind of that ADHD. I have a lot of good peripheral vision. I can walk into a room, I can hear something wrong with a machine. I can glance, and I can just glance at 50 people real quick and figure out who might have something going on that I need to connect with that day. So it depends. Every day brings its own challenge, and I love solving problems. So
nice, dude. Well, appreciate you being on the podcast with us, brother.
Yeah, man. Hey, my son loves you. Actually, the corona, he's like the captain of his football team and lacrosse team, and he didn't have a lacrosse season last year as a junior. He didn't have a football season his senior season, and he found jiu-jitsu. He found jiu-jitsu. Thank God that he found jiu-jitsu. But like one of the first ones, he was like, Dad, have you ever heard this jiu-jitsu? Jiu-jitsu's awesome, Dad. Jiu-jitsu's the best. I was like, yeah, man, I know who jiu-jitsu. He's like, you know who jiu-jitsu is? I'm like, yeah. So you got a wicked fanboy in my household.
Nice, dude. Awesome.
That's so awesome. I love it. That's great, man. So as far as Pete, if people want to kind of get a hold of you or kind of see what you're up to, follow you, where can they do that?
Yeah. OriginUSA.com is our website. And we got a bunch of stuff on there. On YouTube, it's Origin USA on YouTube. And we capture everything we do, all of our mistakes we make, all the pivots we've made. It's almost like we almost got like a little reality show we've been running for a few years, which is just it's a bi-weekly series that basically I've got a guy, Ty, who goes around to all the factories and warehouses, and he films like the shit that's going on. A lot of times it's problems, trying to make boots, you know what I mean? Starting with a piece of paper and a drawing, like literally it's all captured and uploaded on that YouTube channel. So OriginUSA.com, Origin USA on YouTube, Origin USA on Instagram. And that's who we are, man. Origin USA, baby, bringing it back without compromise.
Love it, dude.
Thanks,
I'm excited to be working with you guys on the project coming up, man. And again, appreciate you being on the podcast.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it. You guys are doing an awesome thing for the community. So keep up the good work.
Thanks, Pete.
All right, guys. Hope you enjoyed that podcast. It was a fun one. For me as a business owner and, someone that does jiu-jitsu and stuff, like it was cool to hear a story. One of the things that kind of pervades that whole thing was that there's an idea that there's genius in being the fool, right? Because like the fool doesn't know any better, right? But I think I was listening to that on Jordan Peterson's new book. Was it Beyond Order or whatever, the 12 new rules
came out with a new one?
Yeah, he has a new book out. I've been listening to it on Audible, but it's an idea. Obviously he's not the first person to coin that idea, but the idea that there's a genius in being the fool because you don't know any better. And like sometimes it's better to go into situations blind and just basically jump into it to get started and learn along the way than think yourself out of it. Because I can't tell you how many people I know who like have great ideas or they have some ambition, and then it's just like they'll literally talk themselves out of everything doing it. Like just stop and just just go.
Yeah, when you guys were talking about that particular situation, I could just see myself as like this I'm the overthinker.
Yeah.
And I try to always balance the good with the bad, or the the positives and the negatives. And sometimes you waste so much time doing that like if you would have just dove right in and made some mistakes, you'll be further along anyways. And a lot of times those mistakes are so important to give you a springboard to really dial it in and have a game plan and be so much more efficient down the line. It's almost like the fear of making a mistake holds you back.
I mean, but that's how we kind of learn as humans, right? I mean, on a very base level, we just play around with stuff and we figure it out typically. Tinker around. Yeah, right. And I mean, that's how you. I mean, like, you guys may not know this, but Eugene's become kind of a bit of an AV wizard, like an audiovisual wizard, right? Like, he can hook up all this stuff. I don't know how any of this stuff works, and he'll get it going. And it's funny because in some of this stuff, there's all kinds of problems that you guys are completely unaware of because he's so good at like putting everything together. And so again, but you figure all that stuff. Like, you're a physical therapist. You're not you didn't go to school for this stuff, Yeah,
dude. But you have to use that same mentality of like problem solving, right? Like, I have a client or a patient that can't do this thing. I get guys that I treat for jiu-jitsu all the time, and they can't do this thing. I can't roll. I can't do this thing. So to me, I'm like, let's think about what you can do or how we can modify your game. That's why I love jiu-jitsu. That's why it goes so well with physical therapy for me, because jiu-jitsu is so open-ended. There's so many variables. Like, there's so many different ways that you can be successful and be quote-unquote good at jiu-jitsu, right? You can play from the bottom. You can be a leg lock guy. You can, smash pass. You can just do so many. You can go head and arm. I mean, just so many different ways. So, like, you blend your game around your body type, your style. Sometimes if you're an aggressive person or passive person, and then there's this like figuring it out, like, oh, your knee can't do this, so what can it do?
Yeah.
And how can we get you, to be successful on the mat? So
that's cool.
Same thing.
That's cool. Yeah. So again, hopefully you guys enjoyed the podcast. And right now, hold on, before you press that button that's going to like, swipe off of this or whatever you do with your phones, because I don't know how other phones work. I'm still learning how this new iPhone works. I keep like wanting, there's no button there and you got to swipe everything, whatever. If you guys enjoyed this podcast, you know what would really help us out is if you skedaddle on over to iTunes or wherever you watch this podcast at, or listen to this podcast. And if you're on YouTube, then obviously I encourage you right now to just smash the subscribe button, maybe hit the like button if you so desire to help us out. Again, because you liked it, and this is coming to you free. You're not paying for this. So just press a button, right? Good exchange if you enjoyed the podcast. And if you're listening to this on iTunes or whatever podcast place you listen to, leave us a review. If you think that the podcast is good and you enjoyed it, which a lot of you guys do, because a lot of you guys re-listen to it. I get all kinds of messages from you on Instagram and stuff. So again, I would love to have a podcast review from you. Just helps us out. And again, it just shows other people that when they're like floating through the interwebs and they're like, I want to look at a good one. And you're like, man, I like my podcast. I like listening to Chewy and Eugene talk to these people or whatever it is that they ramble about. Then just press that button, leave us not a subscription, but a positive review.
Yeah.
So that's my gentle nudge to you today. And again, big thanks to our sponsors, Charlotte's Web. Again, you can go to their website at charlottesweb.com, promo code Chewjitsu, save 15% on the order. And again, if you're not already using the product, go in and pick something out of their lineup, try something you're interested in, try it out for a month and see what kind of effect it has on you. Again, don't take my word for it or anybody's word for it. If you're interested, try it out, see how it works for you, and then kind of go from there. Again, every supplement, everything works differently for different people. Everyone's so different. Every person in every situation is different. So again, you want to see how it affects you and then kind of go from there. If you want to get some cool jiu-jitsu apparel, you can go to epicrollbjj.com. Promo code is jiu-jitsu. Again, save 15% on the order. And again, if you're looking for a replacement to like an easy breakfast or something like that, or if you're looking for a light snack that you can have on hand before you go to training, go to submissionnutrition.com. Promo code is jiu-jitsu. Again, if you're in the mood for it, I think the pineapple coconut's really good. They've got a goji berry one too.
Goji berry's good.
That's pretty good. The mountain muesli's pretty good. Just a little word to you, and I'm being real with you. If you look at the chocolate cacao blend, if you've never had a cacao nib, it's bitter. I'm just gonna say, like, I like it. I kind of like that bitterness to it. But if you've never had it before, it's worth tasting first before you jump in, because otherwise you'll have a big bag of stuff you don't want to eat. Like my girlfriend Jess, she loves the goji berry one. She loves the pineapples. Loves the pineapple one. Mountain muesli's fine. But the cacao nib one, she was really excited because it was like chocolate and cacao, and she tasted it and she's like, bleh.
If you've ever had really, really dark chocolate, it's kind of like that. Like very minimally sweet.
Right, which I like.
Yeah.
But again, you have to have that taste for it. So just a heads up in case you get it. I don't want you to come back at me and be like, Chewy, this chocolate cacao tastes like it's super bitter. It doesn't taste like a Hershey's chocolate bar. I'm like, of course not, because it's funny is overseas, like our chocolate, they don't even call it chocolate. They call it chocolate flavored stuff.
Yeah.
Because there's like so little actual chocolate to it.
Yeah.
Like what is it? The Reese cups, like over here it's like milk chocolate covered peanut butter or whatever. Over there it's like chocolate flavored products.
Oh,
it's like
wonderful.
Yeah, it's like there's so little chocolate in it that they're just like, this is the chocolate, this is the sugar.
We are the equivalent of like cheese. What's that cheese you spray?
Cheese Whiz.
Cheese Whiz. Our cheese product.
Yeah, our chocolate's like Cheese Whiz. Now again, I do like actual like dark chocolate.
Yeah, I do too.
So I usually have some around the house that I'll eat every now and then.
It's good for you too. It's got some stuff in it. It's kind of
we'll rationalize whatever we want to say.
It's got like antioxidants and stuff.
What is an antioxidant?
It's something to fight free radicals.
There we go. Yeah, it's like
Does that make sense?
Everybody's like, it's got antioxidants. It's good for us. Like what? I always ask them, like, what's antioxidant? It helps fight cancer. It's like,
yeah, it fights free radicals.
Yeah,
like stuff.
Yeah.
There you go.
There you go.
If that's wrong, too bad. You put me on the spot.
I know I did, man, and I'm giving you shit because the only reason I did is because I've been put on the spot before.
Yeah.
And they're like they asked me like, I can't. You know
You're
what?
Paying
man?
It forward.
Yeah, I paid it forward. I'm like, you know what? I don't know either.
I went to a course. I went to a course for like physical therapy.
Yeah.
It was like a functional range condition, which is like joint training and stuff. And the guy, Dr. Spina, who runs it, he's like, what do they talk about toxins? What the hell are these toxins? Can you tell me what a toxin is? I was like, no, nobody could tell him. Like, what the hell? He's like, well, you're sweating out these toxins. You're doing this. It's like, nobody can tell you what a freaking toxin is. So that's what it reminded me of. But
it's the same thing. Yeah,
when you get to thinking about it, you're like, okay, all right, fair enough.
Yeah. It sweats out the toxins, and then your body's purified. I remember going to like a thing, and people were like some like kind of hippie lady was saying that, and I'm like, all right, let's see what we're doing here.
What toxins are we doing?
What kind of toxins? Can you tell me what kind of toxins?
What kind of toxins are you taking in, lady?
Yeah, like, well, I think someone told me like they were saying heavy metals or something. I was like, okay. I was like, how does it work? I don't know. I don't know.
Sweat it out, I guess.
Like, have you guys like taken like sweat tests or something? Like, oh, there's lots of toxins in this stuff.
Maybe it's in the blood work.
Maybe I don't know.
This is beyond our expertise level.
But that said, also guys, if you want to support the podcast, and if you so choose, you can go to patreon.com/the Jiu-Jitsu podcast. And again, if you missed the first one I said at the beginning of the podcast, and now I've lured you in here, then let me tell you more about it. We have 2 tiers right now. One tier, you get tons, like hundreds of podcast extras where we're talking to the guests about random stuff. Like with Pete, we had a really good conversation, again, that you can listen to in the back end. There's programs, there's like for workout programs, there's warm-up programs, there's all kinds of crazy stuff that we've added into things, just stuff that we think would be helpful. Now in the second tier, you get all that, plus you can jump on a Zoom call with me every other week, and I'm going to be adding in some behind the scenes vlogs, just something that I want to play around with. I got some new gadget cameras and stuff like that I want to use, and so I'm going to be doing some vlogs where I'm just kind of taking you guys along for the Jiu-Jitsu journey, seeing what I'm up to, whatever it is that day. And if you want to get those and kind of get an inside the scenes look, you can check that out at going to the patreon.com/the Jiu-Jitsu or the patreon.com/the Jiu-Jitsu podcast. I always want to add the YouTubes, the Facebooks.
You sound old when you say that.
I know, right? It's just to sound like an old person.
No, the old internet. Wait, that's normal. That makes sense.
No. When I think of old people saying, I'm like the information superhighway. Is that what you call it? So again, and if you guys want to check out my daily email that some people are a big fan of,
I love it, dude.
You know what's funny is, like, I was talking to someone, and my writing style is very different because again, it's written for people that are kind of busy, and there's lots of white space. It's not big blobs of text and stuff. But it's really interesting because, like, I was saying, like, you know, I see how many people actually open those things. You know, how many thousands of people open these things. I'm like, I wonder how many people can say that they've got, you know, anywhere on a, you know, you've got like this many thousands of people that are subscribed to, like, listening to you, like, talk. And again, I get lots of messages back from people, you know, so it's like, it's kind of interesting.
It's cool to see it for the podcast too, because we can see our downloads and our listens and stuff. It's very interesting to see like how some episodes do really, really well, and so I mean they all do actually pretty well. It's just some like will surprise you a little bit, and but it's fun. It's fun to see how many people like we've had. I mean, well over 1 million downloads, you know, and it's just like shit.
It's neat.
People have listened to this thing over like 1 million times, well over 1 million times. You know, it's just kind of like heard my voice talk.
That's cool.
It is kind of interesting, right?
It's neat. Yeah, it's just such an interesting time that we live in.
I know.
But if you guys want to check out the daily email, go to jujitsu.net. There's a little thing up on that website that says free ebook. Click that. You can sign up to the email list, and then what will happen is when you join the Chew Crew list, you'll get 2 free ebooks that I've made. One for creating your own jiu-jitsu game plan, one for drilling, some ideas on drilling. There's a video included with it, and then with all that stuff included, you then get the daily email, and at some point you're like, Chewy, I hate these stupid emails. I don't know why this is my voice today. But, oh, mate, I don't like these emails. I'm going to unsubscribe. I don't want to listen to you anymore. I wonder who's listening at this point.
I don't know.
You know, but you can unsubscribe, and you can be like, I'm done, and I won't message you ever again. Promise. Scouts on it.
Surprisingly, people actually, I have had a request for someone that's like, do you just have the intros and outros separated somewhere? I can just listen to those. I'm like, no, I never thought it would be like. I mean, we go in the weeds on this stuff. Sometimes you know we talk about some pretty interesting things to me.
Well, then that's why I don't. It's like we've talked before. We don't. I don't like when companies come on board and they're like, hey, we like your products and we'd love to have you on board. Here's the thing: we don't do like reads. You know, because it's like because you listen to it and you're like, you don't use this. Like, I'll listen to some podcasts and they're like, you're just like,
or you don't talk like this. Like, this is not how you speak.
Yeah, right. Like, it goes from being like this real conversational thing to, hey guys, by the way, if you want the best blah blah blah, then you need to check out so and so, because if you go there now, you'll save. It's like, you don't even, do you even use this?
Should we tell them about the one that we got asked about?
Which one?
The erectile chewing tablets or something.
Oh, you didn't tell me about this one.
I didn't know.
No, you didn't tell me.
I told you.
You
about
did
this.
not. I would have remembered erectile chewing goo. What was it?
Yeah, they asked us.
This guys, listen. This is literally the first time I've heard about
Seriously?
this. Swear to God, dude.
So somebody wanted us to sponsor us for chewable erectile dysfunction pills. I was like, I'm good.
Man.
No, that's not worth. I'm not worth it. No, it's not worth it. No.
I mean,
You really didn't.
I mean,
told you this.
Because I mean, the thing is like, how am I going to sell that? Like how am I going to talk?
Do you have problems?
Because
start there.
Because I'm just like, man, I was chewing this gum the other day and I accidentally forgot that it was the chewing gum, and woo, it was a crazy night.
I could not go anywhere.
Yeah,
I just had to sit at home with a blanket covering me up.
Yeah, right. Like it made rolling really awkward the other day.
Well, we kind of just gave him a plug. Probably people
they don't know who it is.
Probably can't.
Hey, but whatever. If you have a problem, I mean, go find the chewing gum, I guess. But how would you
chewing? I thought it was a chew. I don't know.
Like
I stopped. I was like, I don't know. I think it's chewable.
It makes me think of like a dog toy or a dog treat. Here's your treat. Roll.
Oh man, I was like, God, this is fun.
Which, hey, I mean, if you have a problem, it's fine. But you know,
we're not discriminating against anyone.
Yeah. So
obviously, if that's a necessity,
but it's just something that I can't physically talk about.
I just don't. No.
What I'm saying is like, if it was something that was gonna like serve a purpose or whatever about what we do with jiu-jitsu and whatever, I mean, like it would, you know, I mean. It would just be, it would be a weird one for me to kind of get there. Hey guys, when you're done training, are you sometimes too tired and you just can't get it up?
Oh, that's perfect. Dude.
I mean, you know,
it's actually really good.
Call that guy back. Say, we're on board.
Oh man.
All right.
Are we done?
We're finished, guys.
We're done.
So guys, I hope you enjoyed the podcast and we'll talk to you next time.